Hello, and welcome back to TeaBookClub. We're an online community of tea lovers and readers from around the world. We read tea books together and we meet up once a month to discuss, share our thoughts, and do different things. So we read each book over a period of 2 months, and at the end of the first month, we have a social meetup where we pick a theme from the book, or perhaps we have the author come along. And so we've just had our social meetup for our current read, and we had a theme of tea house. Everybody made a tea house setting. And from that, we're creating a list of our favourite tea houses around the world. And at the end of the second month, we have the discussion meetup, which is where we meet to actually discuss the book, share our thoughts, opinions, views, etc. We're a growing group, and it's a lovely sense of community, and we really enjoy meeting up and talking tea and books and things that we've read and that discussions that have come up from that. So the book that we're reading at the moment is actually the third edition of 80 Degrees magazine. It's so beautifully produced that it stands alone as a book on its own right. And so the tea house theme came from an article in this for our social meetup that was just on the weekend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read for 5 minutes from this. Every week I do a little 5-minute reading just to give people an idea of what's happening in the book, where we are. It's a nice way if your shipping is delayed that you can catch up and see what's happening, or you can find articles or parts of the book that you actually want to jump ahead to when you do start reading. Some people also enjoy reading along. So yeah, I'm just going to read for 5 minutes and we'll go from there. So I'm going to page 86. This is an article on the Shire Highlands of Malawi, and it's actually an interview. So it's going to be a little bit weird because I'll be asking questions and answering them in the voice that's written here. So let's begin. The Shire Highlands of Malawi. If you enjoy an English breakfast tea, chances are your drink of choice is from Africa. 100 years ago, Scotsman Maclean Kay started a company in southern Malawi that would become a pioneer in African tea production. And while most family-run plantations have been scooped up by large corporations, Satemwa has turned into a family treasure. Alex Kay, Maclean's grandson and the current manager, tells us his history. How was Satemwa founded? My grandfather was living in Malaya, today's Malay Peninsula, in the 1920s when he was invited to come and plant rubber in Malawi. But the company reneged on the offer after he got here. Therefore, given his knowledge of agriculture, he bought a tobacco farm. Tobacco was not his aim, though, so he converted it to tea, as there was a strong demand for it. It turned out to be a crucially important decision, as it saved him during the ensuing depression which caused the tobacco market to crash, taking many tobacco farms with it. As his new tea plants were still too young, he supplemented his income with a corporate job in the day, returning to his farm at night to tend to the plants, despite his lack of experience with tea at that time. What is your role? I am very much involved in the day-to-day organisation of the farm, as well as tea tasting and harvesting planning. I have a small team of tasters with whom we sample teas twice a day and make changes to plucking accordingly. Our business is based on CTC, crush, tear, curl, processing, but in the past few years we have been doing more and more orthodox processing after a gap of nearly 40 years. What prompted this change in production? It really started with an interest. I read about orthodox white tea in particular, and despite having worked my whole life in tea production, I thought to myself, what is this thing? So out of a professional interest, I tried to make a silver needle in the kitchen with my father. This was not a business need, it was purely curiosity. There was much to learn, but after many trials and errors, we were quite pleased with the result. Interestingly, a Japanese buyer came along and placed an order for it. This slowly evolved into a proper business proposition. Now, our production of orthodox teas mainly consists of black tea and accounts for about 20 tonnes, which is roughly 1% of our total output. How has the tea production evolved over the last 100 years? The original company model was based on black orthodox teas only. This lasted until the 1960s when we transitioned to C2C as the technology evolved and due to the advent of the tea bag. Until the 1980s, the only established market for our teas was the UK. After that, their market's dominance started to erode and we expanded to other countries in Europe, mainly Germany and the Netherlands. Satemwa is one of the main businesses in the region. Are you involved in any other projects in the community? This is a very rural area and we rely heavily on the local population as our sole workforce. Therefore, it is important to do as much as possible to keep our employees healthy with access to necessary facilities and services. This has now become a part of the main business. We built health clinics, primary schools, creches, sports initiatives. They have been hardwired into the business. Education is crucial and we try to support the kids with various scholarships, as well as through the Rare Trust, which helps them go to universities. Many of these young people actually come back and join the tea business with us. Environment and its protection is critical too. Resource management, composting and reforestation is a big part of the initiative. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world with few resources, which are often badly managed, and as such cannot provide the basic necessities to the people. Our district has about 800,000 people, but only 2 hospitals and a handful of trained doctors. One is a mission hospital and one is run by the government. We have invested in full clinics, including a small maternity clinic and an ambulance service. What is the area of Satemwa like? Our plantation lies in the highlands next to the Thilo mountain, about 1,200 metres above the sea, with one side dropping down to 80 metres. The majority of our CTC material is grown between 800 and 1,200 metres. Interestingly, some lower areas are good for our orthodox teas, especially Wulong. What are the environmental challenges you face in tea growing in Malawi? There is a huge human population growth and very little vegetation left. Forests are largely gone, so it is essential that we protect, and that's our 5 minutes, essential that we protect the remaining ones and plan for reforestation. Deforestation hugely affects the wild animal welfare too, and these days the typical species such as deer, civets and various bird species have to be protected, as they are on Satemwa. There is no national level help, so we have to take responsibility locally. And the article goes on, and it looks to be really interesting reading. So I've tasted some of the teas from Satemwa, and the white teas particularly are gorgeous. So if that interests you, jump in and read the rest of that article and join us at the end of the month for our discussion, when we will be talking about the articles in this edition, sharing our thoughts and what we got from them and so forth. If that's interesting, then head over to the website TeaBookClub.org, or you can find us on Instagram at Join Tea Book Club. Those links are also below. Thank you.